Between densest forests and shadows of the dark exists a hidden world of beings that roam and haunt anyone that crosses path with them.
Hey, please, I'm leaving.
These are some of those disturbing camping encounters that happen to be caught on camera. Moving on, a man was walking through the woods when he noticed something unusual in the distance. At first, he thought it was just a trick of the light, but as he looked closer, his stomach dropped. The creature had a bright red body, and its flesh looked like it was turned inside out. But the worst part? It had only one huge eye, staring right at him. It didn't move, didn't make a sound, just watched. And somehow, that was the scariest part. The unseen watcher. One evening, a man was walking through the woods when he noticed something strange in the distance. At first, he thought it was another person until he looked closer. The figure stood unnaturally still, its body twitching in odd ways. Then it moved, but not like a normal person. Its limbs jerked strangely. He couldn't tell if it was human or something else. Its face was hidden in the shadows, but he knew it was staring at him. Then it let out a low, unnatural sound. He didn't wait to find out more, turned and ran. Some things in the woods are better left unseen. Mystery by the river. While near the river, a few Australians spotted movement behind a large rock. It was a humanoid figure that slowly stepped out. At first, they thought it was just another person, but as it emerged, they realized it was something else entirely. Its body was oddly stretched, its skin pale and rough, looking almost unnatural. The creature lingered behind the rock for a moment before fully revealing itself. The thing in white. One night, a man was walking near the woods when he spotted something strange. Hanging from a tree was a figure dressed in white. At first, he thought it was just fabric stuck on a branch, but as he got closer, his jaw dropped. The figure had long black hair, but its face was completely hidden. It didn't move, yet it felt alive. A chill ran through him when he realized it wasn't just hanging from the tree, it was almost part of it. The Jungle Witch.
Hello.
Some places are not meant to be disturbed, especially when they are believed to be home to something not quite human. Ghost hunters from Mexico once set out to explore a sacred forest, a place rumored to be haunted by a witch. As they wandered through the trees, eerie sounds filled the air. Then suddenly they saw her, a woman in white, sitting motionless in the middle of the road. Curious but uneasy, they moved closer. Their ghost detecting device started beeping wildly. Something wasn't right. As one of them reached out to touch her shoulder, she turned around, but she had no face. Panic took over and they ran, but the witch wasn't done with them. Moments later, she was right behind them, and they were never seen again.
Hello.
The Silent Watcher. Camping and vlogging at night sounds like a fun adventure until something happens that makes you wish you never pressed record. A man was enjoying a peaceful night in the forest, lying outside his tent, filming his experience under the stars. Everything was calm until a strange noise shattered the silence. At first, he thought it was just an animal, but something felt wrong.
Allahu Akbar.
Grabbing his flashlight, he pointed it toward the trees. That's when he saw it, a ghostly figure standing still in the distance. It was pale, barely visible in the dim light, and it wasn't moving, but it was watching. His hands shook as he grabbed his camera and ran, not daring to look back. The Campfire Horror.
You hear something?
One night, a group of friends sat around their campfire, laughing and sharing stories. Everything felt normal until a strange sound broke the silence.
You hear something?
It wasn't an animal, nor was it the wind. It was something else. Shrugging it off, they continued their fun, capturing photos and videos to remember the night. Later, when they checked the footage, their excitement turned to fear. In one of the images, a pale, thin figure stood in the background, but when they played the video, they noticed something even more unsettling. It wasn't walking, it was gliding or crawling unnaturally through the trees. How creepy, right? The Dogman's gaze. The Dogman is one of the most terrifying cryptids out there. Some say it's just a legend, but others claim to have seen it with their own eyes. Half wolf, half man. This creature is said to stalk forests. One evening, a man was walking near the woods when he noticed something moving in the tall grass. At first, he thought it was a large animal until he saw its glowing eyes staring at him. His heart pounded as he stepped closer. The figure was massive, covered in thick black fur. It wasn't a normal animal. It had the body of a beast, but the shape of a man. The creature crouched low, silently watching him. Not welcome here.
Oh no.
A man went on a solo camping trip, hoping for a peaceful night in nature. After setting up his tent, he wandered off to explore. But when he returned, he froze. Someone was at his campsite. From a distance, he watched a figure tearing through his tent, ripping it apart. Then the stranger tried to set it on fire. Panicked, he backed away and ran to his car, only to find the side mirrors shattered. And across the hood, written in large, messy letters, were the words, "Go home."
Hey, please, please, I'm leaving. I'm leaving.
Bigfoot in the woods. Deep in the forests of Canada, something large moved between the trees. At first, it seemed like nothing more than shifting shadows, but as the man watched closely, he realized it was alive. The creature was massive, far too large to be any known animal. Its dark, hairy body blended into the trees, but its size and shape were impossible to ignore. It moved in an unnerving way, too smooth, too silent, as if it belonged to the forest itself. For a long moment, it stood there before vanishing into the trees once more, leaving nothing behind but unease. Is this a Chupacabra? Chupacabras have been a mystery for years. Stories about these strange creatures have been told all over Latin America, but are they real or just a legend? Well, one trail camera may have captured proof. A camera set up in the woods recorded something strange moving between the trees. It had a thin body, glowing eyes, and walked in an odd way. At first, it looked like a coyote or a stray dog, but its rough, almost hairless skin made it look unnatural. It sniffed the ground, moving slowly as if searching for something. When the footage was reviewed, the camera's owner couldn't believe it. Had they just caught a real Chupacabra? Cryptid or just weird? At 3 a.m., a viewer was watching a live forest camera when they spotted something unusual. They quickly recorded it and shared it online, and soon, everyone was talking about it. The creature in the footage moved in a way that didn't make sense. Its motions were jerky, unnatural, almost like it was glitching. Some believed it could be a cryptid, an undiscovered creature. Others thought it might just be a large rodent moving strangely. Campers face horror. We've all seen videos of skinwalkers or strange creatures lurking in the shadows, but have you ever seen one actually attack people? This footage might be the most terrifying yet. A group of campers had a horrifying experience when a cryptid attacked them deep in the woods. The creature had multiple arms, almost like a humanoid spider, and moved fast. One camper lay helpless on the ground as it attacked. Another tried to run and record the creature, but before they could get far, it lunged again. The footage captured pure chaos, the creature's many limbs twisting as it moved, making it look even more nightmarish. The faceless woman. Some things in this world wear human skin, but that doesn't make them human. Always trust your instincts. One night, a man was walking through the forest when he saw a woman standing completely still. She wore ordinary clothes, just like any other person, but something about her felt wrong. Her skin was pale, almost too pale, and she never moved. At first, he thought she needed help, but as he got closer, his instinct screamed at him to stop. He shined his flashlight at her. She didn't blink, didn't flinch, just stood there, frozen. Then as the light hit her face, she had no face. The human disguise had faded, revealing something far more terrifying. Red eyes in the dark. Moving on, late at night, in an old abandoned house, something strange appeared in the darkness. Its eyes glowed red, piercing through the shadows. It wasn't human. Its arms and legs were too long, its body too thin, and the way it moved, jerky, twisted, was completely unnatural. A loud creak echoed as it slowly turned its head. Even in the dim light, its shape looked disturbing. Too tall, too wrong. Something about it felt inhuman. The tunnel's secret. Tunnels have always been mysterious places, dark, quiet, and often hiding secrets, but no one expected what was spotted deep inside one in Latin America. A strange pale creature lurked in the shadows, barely visible in the dim tunnel light. It had long, thin limbs and moved in an unnatural way, almost like it wasn't from this world. The sight was unsettling, like something out of a horror movie. The way it stayed close to the walls, blending into the darkness, made it seem like it had been living there for a long time. Could this tunnel be its home? And if so, how many more could be hiding in places just like it? The backyard shadow. Late one night, a backyard security camera recorded something strange moving in the bushes. At first, it seemed like an animal, but when the footage was checked, it became clear. This wasn't any normal creature. Its eyes glowed eerily in the darkness, reflecting the camera's light, but its shape was all wrong. It wasn't a dog, a cat, or anything recognizable. It was tall and thin, and the way it moved was unnatural, slow, jerky, almost as if it wasn't meant to exist. It stayed mostly hidden behind the bushes, shifting in an unsettling way as if it knew it was being watched. Do you have any idea what it could be? Abandoned mall horror. A man decided to explore an abandoned mall at night with a flashlight in hand. The air was heavy and the place was completely silent. As he walked through the empty halls, a faint shuffling sound broke the stillness. He froze. When he aimed his flashlight ahead, something pale and unnatural was crawling toward him. It wasn't human and it wasn't an animal. Its long limbs moved in a strange, jerky way, its white skin glowing eerily. His heart pounded, then he turned and ran as fast as he could. What if he had stayed there? Sounds scary. Silent stalker filmed.
Somebody is actually following me. Right.
Shrek taught us one thing: swamps and forests are full of surprises. But while ogres might be friendly, in their own way, the real woods can be a lot creepier, and this footage proves it. A camper decided to spend the night alone in the forest, filming his experience. Everything seemed normal at first. He set up his tent and enjoyed the quiet, but as the night went on, something felt off. The deeper he went into the woods, the more he sensed someone watching him. Then he saw it, movement in the trees, a man, silent, watching, staying just out of reach. Someone had been following him the entire time. She kept walking. One night, a man was driving down a deserted road when his headlights revealed a figure ahead. A woman stood in the middle of the street, unmoving. Her long, tangled hair hid most of her face, and her dirty white dress clung to her thin frame. In one hand, she held a broken stick, dragging it along the pavement as she limped forward. Her movements were strange, jerky, unsteady, almost like she wasn't fully aware of where she was. She never looked at the car, never reacted to the headlights, just kept walking, lost in her own world. Was she a homeless woman in distress, or was there something far more disturbing about her presence? The Skinwalker trap. Sometimes protecting loved ones means standing against something far beyond human understanding. In a quiet mountain village, 3 brave young men decided to fight back against the terrifying skinwalkers. These creatures were feared for their ability to shapeshift and bring destruction, but the young men refused to let their home fall victim. Using ancient knowledge, they formed a salt circle and placed an old piece of clothing at its center. As night fell, 4 skinwalkers emerged. One hid behind a tree before climbing it, while the others charged. One of the men men kicked a Skinwalker, trying to scare it off. They caught one, while 2 collapsed after crossing the salt. The last one disappeared into the shadows, but the village would never forget that night. The forest haunting. Witches aren't just legends. Some say they hide in forests, watching, waiting. If you ever see one, don't stop, just run. One night, a man ran through the forest, his breath heavy, his heart racing. Something unnatural was chasing him. When he glanced back, he saw it, a ghostly figure in a white dress. Its long, dark hair covered its face, and its movements were strange, jerky, almost like it was gliding. He dodged trees, jumped over roots, and ran as fast as he could, but no matter how far he went, the sound of footsteps grew closer. He didn't know where to go, just that he had to escape. Tall cryptid spotted. These 2 hikers were on a trail when they saw movement in the field. A tall creature suddenly stood up from the grass. It wasn't just big, it was fast. Its pale, muscular body looked completely unnatural, unlike any animal they had ever seen. The more they watched, the more they realized it wasn't just their imagination. The creature suddenly ran toward them. Without wasting a second, they hit the gas and sped away, leaving the terrifying figure behind. Vanishing alien. Aliens. Some believe in them, some don't. But reports of strange sightings keep coming. Are they real or just people seeing what they want to see? This story might just make you think twice. A group of friends was hiking through the woods when they noticed something unusual behind a tree. At first, it was just a shadow, but as they got closer, they realized something was hiding. It wasn't an animal, and it definitely wasn't human. It was small, pale, and had huge dark eyes. Time seemed to freeze. Then, without warning, the figure suddenly darted away, disappearing into the trees. Whatever it wasn't supposed to be there. Demon in the woods. Stories of horned creatures have been around for centuries. Some say they are demons, while others believe they are ancient spirits that roam the forests. But what if one was caught on camera? A tourist, walking alone through the woods, spotted something strange in the shadows. It had dark skin, glowing eyes, and 2 long twisted horns on its head. He froze, unable to believe what he was seeing. The creature stood still, staring at him with an eerie intensity. Quickly, he grabbed his camera, hoping to capture proof before it vanished. As he zoomed in, the creature didn't move, but its glowing eyes seemed to burn through the darkness. Cryptid in the bushes. One hunter, out alone in the deep woods, spotted movement in the raspberry bushes. At first, he thought it was a small animal, but when he raised his camera, he saw something different, something odd. The creature was tiny, barely visible, and seemed to be hiding on purpose. It wasn't like anything he had seen before. Whatever it was, this was the first time anyone had captured it on camera. The Web of Terror. Spiders are already creepy enough, right? Whether it's a tiny one in the corner of a room or a big tarantula, they always manage to send chills down the spine. But what if one was the size of a dog? A group of hikers was walking through a narrow trail in the Congolese forest when something unbelievable happened. A massive spider, which was much bigger than any they had ever seen, calmly crawled across the path. Its long, thick legs moved slowly, and its body looked too large to be real. Hunter's bone-chilling encounter. 2 hunters were deep in the woods when they found a strange shelter near their campsite. Inside, they discovered human remains. They decided to return the next day to investigate. Before leaving, they set up a trail camera, hoping to capture anything unusual. Later, when they checked the footage, they were stunned. A massive creature had appeared near the shelter. It was huge, covered in thick fur with strange features. It wasn't just any animal. Personally, to me, it looked like Bigfoot. What about you? Shadow in the fields.
I know. Crap, not this dumb guy again.
Next up, two farmers were working when they noticed movement in the distance. At first, they thought it was just a trick of the light, but as it got closer, their unease grew. A figure was crawling through the tall grass. Its body was twisted, bending in ways that didn't seem natural. It moved fast, too fast. The farmers stood frozen, watching in shock as the figure crept closer, its strange, unnatural form unlike anything they had ever seen. So next time you're out in the fields or walking through tall grass at dusk, keep your eyes open. You never know what might be watching from the shadows. The possessed child? This person was riding his motorbike down a quiet street in India late at night. As he passed by, he noticed something small moving in the distance. Curious, he slowed down and pointed his bike's headlight at it. What he saw was chilling. A small figure stood there, its body twitching and jerking unnaturally, almost like it was possessed. Its face was completely black, and its movements didn't seem human. Was this a lost child or something much stranger? The midnight ritual? Drums are one of the most exciting instruments out there. From rock bands to traditional ceremonies, a good drummer sets the entire rhythm. A strange video recently surfaced, showing something eerie deep in the forest. A woman sat under the pale moonlight, playing the drums. Yes, you heard that right. Then in the distance, another figure appeared. A woman in a red dress, dancing as if controlled by the beat. Some believe she wasn't just a dancer, but a red witch, summoned by the drumming. The whole scene felt like an ancient ritual captured on camera by pure chance. Not a dog. One night in Brazil, a woman was walking down a quiet road when she noticed something unusual. Under the dim glow of a streetlight, a dark figure sat completely still. At first, she thought it was a stray animal, but as she moved closer, something felt wrong. The creature was large, muscular, and completely black. It wasn't a dog. She froze. The creature didn't move, almost as if it knew she was watching. A reminder, if you're walking alone at night, always stay aware of your surroundings. Sometimes things are watching, even if you don't see them. Eyes in the dark. Walking alone in a forest can be peaceful until you feel something watching you. That eerie sensation is never a good sign, but imagine finding something staring back at you from deep inside a cave. In a remote cave, an unknown creature was spotted lurking in the shadows. It seemed to be hiding, almost as if the cave was its home. The sight was unsettling. Its body was black and slim, and it was blending perfectly into the darkness. But the most terrifying part, its eyes. Huge, white, and faintly glowing in the dim light, staring straight ahead. Was it watching them the whole time? The midnight intruder. Camping is supposed to be peaceful, just a night under the stars, surrounded by nature. But deep in the forest, things can feel different. A group of friends set up camp in a remote area, enjoying the fresh air and quiet night. As they rested in their tents, one camper heard rustling outside, probably just the wind, he thought. But then, a shadow moved inside his tent. Before he could react, something crawled in. The dim lantern light revealed a figure, twisted, unnatural, not like any animal he knew. Heart racing, he bolted outside. The others turned just in time to see a crouched figure inside his tent. Now that is horrific. It wasn't alone. A man went into the forest one night to collect firewood. With his flashlight in hand, he searched through the trees when something moved in the distance. He swung his light around. Just beyond the trees, a tall, pale figure stood watching. Its limbs were long and thin, and its eyes reflected the light, glowing eerily in the dark. The creature took a slow step forward, its movements unnatural. Then it slipped behind a tree, like it was still watching, still waiting. Blurry, but terrifying.
Oh, frick!
In a recent video, a mysterious creature was seen crawling through the woods. The footage was taken from a distance and was too blurry to make out any details, but one thing was clear, it didn't move like anything ordinary. It stayed low to the ground, creeping through the darkness. Some believe it was just an animal, but others are convinced this could be something much stranger. If I saw this in real life, I'd be running the other way. Zoo's Night Stalker. Security cameras catch all kinds of things, thieves, animals, sometimes even ghosts. But one camera near a zoo in Texas recorded something truly strange. Late at night, the footage showed a figure standing in the darkness. It wasn't a person, and it wasn't an animal, at least not a normal one. It had a humanoid shape, but something about it seemed off. Some believe it looked like the legendary Goat Man. For a while, the creature just stood there watching, then without warning, it disappeared into the shadows. The footage was grainy and shaky, which made it even creepier. The beached mermaid. Mermaids. Every culture has a story about them. Some say they're beautiful, others claim they lure sailors to their doom. But what if they were real? In Balakistan, a group of men discovered something unbelievable. A creature lying on the rocks, struggling to move. It had the upper body of a human and a long, glistening tail. It looked just like the mermaids from old legends. The men stood there, unsure of what to do. The creature seemed desperate, trying to get back into the water. But where had it come from? Was it really a mermaid? Or something else? Glowing eyes at dusk.
I need to capture something here.
Next up, on a quiet farm, a local spotted movement in the distance. At first, it was just a shape blending into the darkness. Then 2 glowing eyes appeared. They didn't flicker or shift. They just stared, motionless, unblinking. The figure hid behind trees and tall grass, watching. It never moved closer, but it never left. The man stood frozen. Something was out there, and it was watching him. If something doesn't run away, maybe it's waiting for you.
Son of a
A shadow in the Amazon. The Amazon rainforest is one of the most breathtaking places on Earth, but when the sun goes down, the jungle changes. The darkness hides things that no one can explain. One night, deep in the Amazon, a man was walking through the trees when he suddenly felt like something was watching him. He stopped and aimed his flashlight ahead. In the distance, a strange figure sat completely still. Its glowing eyes locked onto him. At first, he thought it was an animal, but the longer he stared, the more he realized it wasn't. Its shape was all wrong. It was too human to be a beast, but too unnatural to be a person. Skinwalker or alien? Strange sightings in the woods have been reported for years. Some say it's just a trick of the mind, while others believe something much darker is out there. But what if this time it was real? A group of friends was walking through the woods when they noticed something unusual. Sitting low in the bushes, almost hidden, was a small figure. It was still at first, but then, as if it sensed them, it suddenly turned its head and stared directly at them. Its gray skin, large black eyes, and eerie silence made their stomachs drop. Personally, that movement, too fast, too unnatural, screams Skinwalker to me. The Dogman returns. Most people think the Dogman is just a legend, something out of old stories and wild imaginations. But every now and then, a sighting shakes up those beliefs. And this time, there's video proof. One evening, a family was driving past a dense forest when they spotted something strange in the distance. A creature sat perfectly still, staring straight at them. It wasn't a deer or a bear. It had the body of a man, but the head of a dog. It was definitely a dogman, a rare cryptid reported around the world. Sightings are uncommon, but those who claim to have seen one never forget it. If this footage is real, skeptics might need to think twice. Woods of the Undead. Two friends were walking near the trees when they noticed something unusual. A figure stood in the distance, completely still, just watching them. At first, it didn't move. Then suddenly, it dropped to the ground and started crawling toward them. Its jerky, unnatural movements reminded them of something straight out of a zombie movie. Its appearance was just as disturbing. Something about it wasn't right. Without wasting a second, the friends backed away. If it were me, I wouldn't have stuck around to figure out what it was. Open discussion. Camping as a kid was always fun, telling spooky stories to scare your siblings, roasting marshmallows, and hearing strange sounds in the dark. But for one family, a night in the woods turned into something they'd never forget. They were sitting by the fire, the kids already asleep, when they noticed something in the trees. Two glowing eyes stared at them from the darkness. At first, they thought it was an animal, but the eyes didn't move. They just watched, silent, unblinking. The parents sat frozen with their hearts pounding. Sometimes the scariest things aren't in stories, they're real.